we'll start this morning. I'd like to ask everyone, since I'm so hard of hearing, when you get ready to make, I want to encourage you to make comments if you would like, but raise your hand high. And I've got 3 mics available this morning where people can hold your hand up till they see you. And we'll let you make your comments because I like class participation. And so we'll, with those instructions, we'll get started this morning. We talked about talking about the fundamentals of team leadership. Last week we began with the first item of our leadership begins with character, and then we talked about the leadership models expectations, and also team leadership reflects the health of a team, and then credibility. We ended up with the credibility builds influence, and those are the major points of some of the major points of team leadership. And this morning we'll start with talking about a little bit about personality and leadership, personalities of the Bible. Let's see, I got that a little bit out of. I've left one out there. Anyway, leaders and personality. We have some unique strengths and weaknesses and personalities, and some of those are. If we look at them, some of the strengths of a leader would be maturity, knowledge, ability to listen. Team leaders should be able to encourage others to give their input, and openness would be a real strength for a leader, and agreeability. All those would be good, almost a must for a good leader to succeed in any endeavor he takes. And some of the weaknesses that we might see in leadership would be one that would be closed-minded. We all need to be open-minded to be, if we're going to be a good leader. Lack of knowledge would be a leader doesn't have to know everything, but he has to know enough about something to be able to know who to go to and get the job done. But a spiritual leader needs to be pretty knowledgeable in spiritual things. But in any kind of leadership role, whether it be an elder or someone in secular work, we need to have some knowledge of what we're trying to accomplish. And we can't have a my way or no way attitude. And we've seen that in leaders. All of us have, I'm sure. And there are a lot of people sometimes that are in leadership that have a haughty attitude. Or sometimes you see leaders that are very sarcastic in their work, and also those that may be just an unpleasant person. Sometimes it makes you wonder how some people get into a leadership role as unpleasant as they come across. So that's some of the weaknesses. Is anyone else got any comment of something that might make a strong or weak leader? Greta, go ahead, David. Let Greta get hers there, Jude.
Oh, goodness. When I first started talking, it wasn't coming through, and then all of a sudden, a good leader has to have a strong backbone as well. They need to be.
Let me turn my hearing aids up while I'm here. All right.
A good leader needs to have a strong backbone as well, because if you're busy doing something, there's always going to be somebody who's complaining about it. And when we talk about agreeability, that needs to be kind of our personality, and not that we're just going to agree to anything, that we're going to be able to stand for what's right and have the backbone to deal with the negative people who are going to complain and gripe and carry on when we do stand for what's right.
That's a very good point. We always have to stand for what is right, regardless of. We can't always. We try to be agreeable on the points that we can be agreeable on, but we can't cave for something that would be wrong. Very good point. Ed?
Thank you, Greta. I was going to mention about Moses and your point about having a backbone and complaining. You think about how many times people complained about Moses and his leadership. And but still, it was God's plan for him to lead the nation. And so we don't need to be the complainers. We need to be the ones that build up. But then you mentioned about openness. And then I thought about Moses when his father-in-law came to him and says, what you're doing is not good. You're trying to lead this whole nation by yourself. When it came to, settling disputes and judgment. And so that's when the 70 men were appointed, if you want to think about them being judges or ones that oversaw these personal complaints within that nation. So he was open to that suggestion and, went ahead and appointed some men to do the job. And then I think, too, from the standpoint of having the strength to encourage people when they are down. Moses was a good example. He didn't have that pessimistic attitude. He was an optimistic man, and his own brother and his own sister,
Mm-hmm.
So he had, I guess you would say, family relations, family problems, but he still was able to be a good leader, even though they opposed him sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, just look at Moses as a his unique strengths, and maybe the weakness would be that, as I said, he was trying to do all the work by himself and didn't get people to help. Very
good points. Anybody else got a comment? Excuse me. Also, we see there the second point there, self-awareness prevents blind spots, and we look at Proverbs 27:3. The scripture tells us there, says, be diligent to know the state of the flock. So a good leader has to be aware of the health of his flock. And what I mean by that, whoever he's in charge of, an elder, needs to be kind of aware of the spiritual health of the congregation. And any other kind of leader role, we need to know kind of the health of the knowledge that the people that we're in charge of are trying to get a job accomplished. We need to be somewhat aware of their abilities and know more a little bit about what they're expertise are, and it can prevent a lot of problems down the road if you kind of know what, keep aware of what's going on, and who's doing what. Any comments on that? Next, we see that emotional maturity and stabilizes a team. That's a real thing there. If a leader is not emotionally stable, if he flies off the handle or is weak and wishy-washy, what happens in either of those circumstances? Any comments on that? Our emotion, we should be a leader should be very mature in what in his thinking. As I said, he shouldn't be wishy-washy on anything, and not one that panics when something goes wrong, because we always going to have things go wrong. Bob?
If you have one person in a leadership situation that's not emotionally stable, it throws everyone else in that leadership walking on eggshells so they don't upset that person, and so it really hurts the work altogether, just for one person that's not stable.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Any others?
I'll add a comment.
Right.
I'm thinking from the standpoint of anger. If somebody comes to you and approaches you with anger about a situation, the natural response is, if someone's angry and is upset and gets mad, and then maybe you say something and they're still angry and they're angry at you or as an individual, then all of a sudden the natural response is, well, we'll reply in anger. But really, to be able to take a situation that is tense and calm that individual down, be able to reason with that individual. And I know my wife Pam, dealing with through the years in teaching, mm-hmm. One of her, I think, strengths is that, when parents come and angry about a situation, all of a sudden, at the end of that conversation, no longer angry and now a friend. And how much more so, I think, would be, as far as being an elder in the Lord's church to handle these situations.
Also, that's a good point. Also, a leader should be someone that can kind of handle a stressful situation. I remember, I don't know how many people here still remember Mr. Dick Newman. It was when I was in high school over here across the road, was a principal over there then, and I'd seen some parents come in over there just topping the timber and be so mad, and he had a way, but he'd carry them in his office and talk with them, and then a little while later it'd be all smiles. And we need to be able to kind of try to handle, relieve the stressful situations as much as possible as a strong team leader. That's a good point, Ed. Anybody else? Personalities in the Bible. The Bible depicts a lot of different personalities, doesn't it? God uses various personalities, but He refines them, doesn't He? We can see how some people started out with the personality that they had, And if God was going to use them, you see on down the road where they were pretty well refined. Take Peter, for instance, in Luke 22:31 through 34. He's talking about, Christ is talking to his apostles there, and he tells of his upcoming persecutions and so forth, and tells them, he goes on and tells them that the apostle, that they will be scattered and they'll deny him. What does Peter speak up and say? He says, he tells him that he will not deny him. He'd go to prison or even to death to see him. But what happened when it came down to it? He was just like the rest of them. He didn't completely leave, but he didn't speak up. He denied him 3 times, And but we go on and look into with that same thought. Go look at Acts 4:13 through 22. There, Peter, after Christ's resurrection, and he gave them the church was established, and he gave them the instructions to go and preach and to teach others. We see Peter and John were in the synagogue, and they were arrested because of their teaching. And they were brought before the Sanhedrin. Of course, they had done a miracle there that the Sanhedrin couldn't deny, so they tried to handle it through warnings and warn them not to teach anymore. I guess you might describe the Sanhedrin as maybe like our Supreme Court in the Jewish system. They had all authority. They were the people that were supposed to be in rule. And so they warned them not to teach anymore. And somebody tell me what Christ or what Peter spoke up and said. Right. He said, y'all do whatever y'all think as far as what you perceive, how you perceive God, but we got to only speak the things that we have seen and heard, and to obey God rather than man. So it shows how well he had been refined. And what about Paul? Paul was a perfect example of God's refinement too, wasn't he? Paul tried, he thought he was doing God's work, and so he was very diligent in persecution, even putting people to death. But God brought him to his knees, didn't he? And we can see how refined he was through the rest of his life, how he suffered so many different persecutions himself. To me, it would be hard to stay faithful, probably, if I had to go through all the persecution he did. But God refined. If we turn ourselves over to God and try to be the leader that he wants us to be, he'll help us. He'll refine us. And there again, we see Moses, as they had talked about. He was reluctant when God first appeared to him in the burning bush and gave him all the instructions. He made excuses, didn't he? He told him that he wasn't a good speaker. After he showed him all the miracles and the powers that he would have, but he come up with the excuse that I'm not a good speaker. I'm slow of tongue. But then when he did go into Egypt, he became a mighty leader. He was refined. So we refine ourselves a whole lot as we look here at the next item there, developing the fruits of the spirits we talked about last week. That's a very important thing for a spiritual leader to refine his things that depict the fruits of the Spirit, like love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so we have to refine those things within ourselves to be a leader like God would want us to be. And it would help in any situation, secular or spiritual, for us to develop all those traits as we talk. Any comments?
I can think of another example. Odie has gone through the book of John, and now we're fixing to go to the epistles. And when we think of John, and we call him the apostle, we call him the apostle of love. But one of the traits that were introduced in the gospel is that James and John were the sons of thunder. And whether that is talking about his father or talking about them, that maybe they were very bold and maybe outspoken and maybe could get angry quick. If that's the case, here is a man that would be heated, and yet in the end, through all the growth in his later life, he's known as the apostle of love. Mm-hmm. So that shows that a person can transition and can change, and what the Lord can do with us.
If we can't change some of our attitudes and some of our characteristics, we'll never make a good leader. And so we all need to work diligently on that. Next, we have sacrifice. Leaders have to pay a price, don't they? They have to sacrifice. A leader has to make sacrifices of his time, of things that he would like to do, maybe. Family time sometimes, especially in spiritual work and an eldership. We don't get to do some of the things that we would really like to do sometime, because we have to be willing to, if we're going to be the man that, our person of God that we ought to be, when the need arises, we have to forget what we want to do and do what needs to be done. So there's some sacrifices that have to be made if we're going to be a spiritual leader. And that follows through in secular work too. If we're going to be a good leader, we have to be willing to give of our time. And you know, then we in Luke 9:23, you know, the Bible says there, if a man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. And that's what we talk about. We have to sacrifice some of our time, that our personal time sometimes, to do what we need to be doing. Then we have the accountability, as in Hebrews 13:17. Excuse me. There it's actually talking about the eldership being and the relationship between them and his followers. They're supposed to be to submit yourselves to them. But even in a leadership role such as an elder, the elder has to be submissive to God in all things. So we all, in any kind of leadership role, we all have to submit to somebody And we need to be willing to submit and do what we're asked in anything endeavor that we in leadership, our followers. Then we see the endurance through criticism. Anybody that wants to be a leader of any kind, whether it's in secular work or whether be a deacon, an elder, or a class teacher, anything, don't think you'll ever be free of criticism. But if we're the person that we ought to be, we'll have minimal criticism maybe, but we always still going to be have criticism. We need to be aware of that and be willing to pay the price to have criticism. We don't rebel against the criticisms, but we do try to overcome them. Any comments on that?
Dickie, go ahead.
The only thing on that one I was going to say was that example of Moses, when you go back with him again with the Amalekites.
Yeah.
Not only were they criticizing him, it was to the point of he was fearful of being stoned. So, that idea of certainly, today we suffer criticism and we've got to endure through that. But, I don't think we don't fear being stoned, at least at this point. But even through that, Moses endured, and I think that's a good example for us, certainly.
Yeah, sure is. Any other comment?
I was just going to say that criticism could be of two types. Criticism sometimes is, to bring a person down, to destroy. And then there's the criticism that is, I guess you would say, welcome, that instead of tearing down, it's try to build up and make you better. Mm-hmm. And so, first of all, you got to recognize what kind of criticism it is. Is it for our good, or is it, maybe an attack on us personally, or I think of ad hominem type mm-hmm. situation where you're trying to tear somebody down. But then how you handle criticism, that endurance. The only way not to have criticism is do nothing. And when people criticize us, I'm doing the best I can. How can I do it better? What would you suggest? Or, some of those kind of words. But if you do nothing, I'm thinking about that one talent man that did nothing. I want the Lord's blessing. I don't want the Lord to criticize me and said, well, I'm going to be lost eternally because I did nothing. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather do something and be criticized by people.
That's true. Some very good points. So we have to pay a lot of price. A lot of times we have to pay the price of long hours and hard work. We have to pay the price of studying to grow in knowledge, and we also have to pay the price of accepting responsibility for our actions. We also have to pay the price of accepting criticism, as we just talked about. And we have to accept the price of consequences that go with making decisions, don't we? Everything's not going to be a bed of roses, but we need to be able to pay the price to do what we need to do. And then next there, some of the things that where some leaders don't pay the price. Pride is one, isn't it? Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And so some some people take a leadership role because of pride. They desire the prestige, maybe what they see as the prestige of a position, but then they don't. Are not really willing to do the work to do what the work is, and it's a pride thing is the reason they're there, and they can't, and they don't pay the price because they're not willing to do the work. Want the position and the prestige of having the position, but the work slides. And then some people don't pay the price because they are fearful. And 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. So we're not to be a fearful people. We're not to be fearful of stepping up and trying to do the job. Also, then we need to be we're feared because we fear some things. We have a fear of failing. And some reason we might do that might be because we hadn't kept up with the things that we ought to be doing. We don't continue our studies like we should, and lots of those kinds of things. And then there's comfort and complacency sometimes that causes us to not to pay the price. We get comfortable with where we're at. We don't continue to try to grow. And then sometimes we just lazy and have a lack of energy or of self-motivation. So that's some of the reasons that people won't pay the price of being leaders, is they just for those things. Any comments on those? Then some leaders don't stay. Some leaders have burnout. What causes burnout sometimes? I know there are some people that have comments on that.
Feeling like you're one of the people that's doing it all. Sometimes we get into this thing, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And so you try to do everything, and you're just overworked and burned out.
And that is true. And sometimes it's because we try to speaking of what she's talking about, sometimes because we think we got to handle everything ourselves, and we don't do a good job of delegating and let somebody else take the burden. But then other times it's because people just won't take the responsibility and help. And then the person that's in leadership get burnt out trying to do it all. And then discouragement we see there. And we're instructed as Christians not to comment.
Me.
Oh, okay.
Me. Sometimes you can get, this happened to me. I was in the last club for 10 years, so I went to a meeting, and the people had changed, the subjects, the places had changed. And one night I went to a meeting, and I went home. I told my brother, I said, hey, this is not for me no more. I'm going to get out of here. So it can be the people around you that change the situation that you can be in, that you can get burned out that way.
Yeah, we can all get burnt out in some ways. It's just about to get time for class to end, but and then one of the things is we get discouraged and we lose vision. And that's a critical thing for a leader, is to maintain and to renew his vision of what's going on and what he desires to accomplish. But if we let ourselves get burnt out, if we don't endure, that can very much happen. The last thing I have there is on continuing education. A leader, either in whatever he's in, he has to stay abreast of what's going on and what new things are and what's being taught, and those type of things. We need to be willing to continue our education, either where it's through personal study or through a mentorship, as we see there next, where iron, in Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. So if we get running, if we're a leader and we run into something that's and get into stagnation, look for somebody that's in a similar situation, similar thing, and you see how they come it. Talk to them. Let them be a mentor to you for a while. And then definitely we need to have ongoing growth in ourselves, in our spiritual growth and everything. I appreciate your comments and your participation. Those that have daily Bible readers or regular Bible readers.